Most people won't notice it about you. You look functional, present, capable. You answer messages, make decisions, carry responsibilities. From the outside, nothing seems obviously wrong. But inside, your mind feels like a room where the lights never turn off. Even when you're resting, something is still running. A thought finishing another thought. A feeling responding to something that hasn't happened yet. And you've probably wondered quietly more than once why your mind never seems to land anywhere soft. Why thinking, something you're good at, feels less like a gift and more like a constant weight you can't put down. At some point, that question turns inward. You start asking yourself why intelligence hasn't made life easier. Why seeing more, understanding more, anticipating more hasn't translated into peace. You notice how easily other people move through things. They decide faster, they recover quicker. They don't replay conversations for hours or feel exhausted by situations that looked simple on the surface. And without realizing it, you begin to blame yourself. You assume you're overreacting, too sensitive, bad at handling pressure. You tell yourself that if you were stronger, more disciplined, more mature, this wouldn't affect you so much. That interpretation slowly becomes a quiet accusation. Something is wrong with the way my mind works. But what if that story is incomplete? What if the exhaustion you feel isn't caused by weakness, but by the sheer amount of processing happening beneath the surface? Highly intelligent minds don't just think faster, they think wider. They connect more dots, often automatically. They scan for meaning, patterns, consequences, emotional undertones, all at once. You don't simply experience moments, you interpret them, layer them, project them forward and backward in time. While others register what is happening, your mind is already asking what it means, how it fits into a larger picture, and what could come next. That depth has a cost. When you walk into a room, you're not just present. You're absorbing moods, shifts in tone, unsaid tensions. When you make a decision, you're not choosing between options. You're simulating outcomes, risks, ripple effects. When something goes wrong, you don't just feel disappointment. You analyze it from every possible angle. This isn't drama, it's density. And density creates weight. The kind of weight that doesn't show up as panic or collapse, but as a constant, low-level fatigue. A feeling of being mentally full before the day has even finished. A tiredness that sleep doesn't always solve, because it isn't physical. It's the tiredness of continuous awareness. And when no one around you seems to carry that same load, it's easy to assume the problem is you. That you're failing at something others have mastered. But what's actually happening is that your mind is doing more work than most people can see. Not because it wants to, but because it doesn't know how not to. Before I continue, tell me, there's a moment many people like you recognize, even if they've never named it. It's the moment you realize you're not overwhelmed by events, but by awareness. Nothing dramatic is happening. No crisis, no chaos, yet your mind feels crowded. You notice contradictions others ignore. You feel the emotional weight behind words that were meant casually. You sense when something is off long before it becomes visible. And because you notice it, you carry it. This is the part that's rarely talked about. Intelligent minds don't just process information, they hold unresolved complexity. They sit with questions that don't have clean answers. They keep multiple truths active at the same time. Where others simplify to survive, you hesitate, not from indecision, but from seeing too many valid angles at once. That hesitation is often misread, by others as overthinking, by yourself as failure to cope. So you push harder, you try to be more normal. You force yourself to move faster, feel less, react simpler. And slowly, the exhaustion deepens. Not because you're doing too much, but because you're constantly translating yourself into a world that rewards surface-level functioning. The truth is, your mind was never designed for constant urgency. It was designed for depth, for synthesis, for understanding layers that don't announce themselves. But depth in a fast world becomes friction. And when no one explains this to you, you end up fighting your own nature, trying to silence the very sensitivity that allows you to see clearly. Here's the quiet reframe most people arrive at far too late. You are not overwhelmed because you are incapable. You are overwhelmed because you are perceptive in an environment that rarely pauses. Your fatigue isn't a flaw, it's feedback. It's your mind signaling that it has been carrying more meaning, more nuance, more responsibility than it was ever meant to carry alone. Understanding this doesn't magically make life easier, but it does something subtler and more important. It removes the shame. It allows you to stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and begin asking, "What am I carrying that others don't see?" And when that question shifts, something inside you softens. You don't need to become less intelligent. You don't need to harden yourself or numb your perception. What you need is permission to acknowledge the weight of depth. Because sometimes the most intelligent thing a mind can do is stop treating its own exhaustion as a personal failure. If this resonates, take a moment and sit with it. And if you feel comfortable, share in the comments. What is the part of your inner world that feels the most unseen? There's a subtle relief that comes when something inside you finally has a name. Not a label meant to define you, but a recognition that explains the tension you've been living with. Because once you see it, you realize this exhaustion was never random. It followed a pattern built around depth without recovery. You've spent years being the one who understands, who notices, who adjusts, who absorbs what others release without a second thought. You read between lines. You anticipate needs before they're spoken. You carry emotional loose ends simply because you can see them. And slowly, that turns into a quiet responsibility. If you see it, you hold it. This is the invisible load, not tasks, not deadlines, but unprocessed meaning, the weight of what might happen, what someone probably meant, what could have been said differently, what you should have noticed sooner. Your mind doesn't let things end cleanly. It keeps doors slightly open, just in case there's something important inside. And because this kind of weight isn't recognized socially, you rarely get permission to rest from it. So, you rest physically, but mentally, you remain on watch. That's why silence doesn't always feel calming. That's why slowing down can feel uncomfortable. When the noise stops, awareness gets louder. Here's the sentence many people in your position need to hear. Your mind isn't heavy because it's broken. It's heavy because it's full of context, full of nuance, full of emotional data that never asked to be stored. When you internalize this, something important shifts. You stop trying to empty your mind. You stop treating rest as failure. You stop forcing simplicity where complexity naturally exists. Instead, you begin to relate to your mind differently, with respect. You realize that the goal was never to think less, but to carry less alone. To allow some thoughts to pass without completion. To let some questions remain unanswered. To accept that not every layer needs your attention. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about releasing the belief that depth must always equal endurance. As you listen to this, notice what changes in your body. Not dramatically, just a slight exhale. That's often the first sign that self-accusation is loosening its grip. And maybe the most important question isn't, how do I stop feeling overwhelmed? But what would it feel like to stop judging myself for being this way? If this felt like it was speaking directly to you, you're not alone in that experience. Leave a comment, not to explain yourself, but simply to acknowledge what you carry. Sometimes being seen begins with naming.